Hello guys, Radish here and welcome to this brand new episode on the Fable Park series. Today I have something very special for you guys. We're going to build the sideline centerpiece of the first themed area in the park. This is by far the most advanced build I have made up to this point. It has everything, it has custom roofing, small details and advanced scaling. So I am very excited to show you guys. Be ready, sit back, relax and enjoy the time lapse. Alright, here we go. We enter the experimentation phase. For this build, I just wanted a Fairytale castle, which would be the centerpiece of the first area. I didn't really use inspiration, I just knew I wanted many spires and layers like every Fairytale castle that is in existence. And I started with this little circular area just to find out what I really wanted, and you are gonna see everything is derived from this little piece here. The rest is gonna be deleted in a second. I also didn't want to make it too big because it's standing on a mountain and I don't want a large area dedicated to that specific mountain. So how do you make a small castle seem big? Well, I will let you know at the end of the video. It has a little bit of a science. And yeah, I just did that while I was working on surrounding area, so it's easier for me to say when I'm working on it. As for the build materials, I just used plaster and the resort columns. I also experimented with the roof and found a perfect fit pretty quickly. I used the balcony blocks in pairs to get this tiling pattern. It isn't perfect, but it's pretty easy to work with and it gave the effect I wanted. It's not efficient, it has a lot of piece count, but yeah, that's it for now. So enjoy the experimentation phase and the music. For now, I'm just gonna be quiet and I will see you at the layout. Now that I've finished with the experimentation phase, I have a good idea of what the build is going to look like. That gives me the creativity to imagine the layout of the castle and how the finished build is going to look. It helped me a lot to use the non-grid walls, and that's also the best advice I can give for the people trying to make custom builds. If the piece count isn't an issue, use the non-grid pieces. It gives you a lot more flexibility and makes the build much more unique. But there's also one disadvantage with the non-grid pieces, and that is that it can mess up your whole build if you use the wrong orientation. In my build, some of the pieces are not perfectly straight, which is gonna be a problem in the end. But for now, it's okay, it looks great, so it did work out in the end, it looks great, but just be careful when you use non-grid pieces, it can mess up your whole build. Just use the angle snap when you rotate the pieces, then most of the problems can be solved. But yeah, that's just something to look out for. So now I'm working on the whole layout of the build. It wasn't easy to find a nice fit. When I started rotating the pieces and making different orientations in the build, it became a lot easier. Eventually, I made the layers I wanted and got the towers and spires in the right position. And at this point, I realized what I wanted and it became a lot more fun to build. Except for one thing, and that were the roofs. So this build has a lot of spires, and those spires are custom made, and it was a hassle. It was absolute hell. So to spare you from the misery, I will speed up the time lapse. I hate roofs. Alright, that was the spire. Let's continue. Oh yeah, and for the people who are gonna say, why didn't you mirror it with a rotational platform? Stupid mistake, but the build isn't perfectly straight. So yeah, it wasn't possible. I just gave myself a lot of more misery. So as a wise man once said, it is what it is. Can do nothing about it. So let's just continue. Now that the layout is done, we get into the detailing section. This section, I don't have a lot to say about this section. It went pretty smoothly. I just used different types of build materials and build pieces. My favorite piece on the detailing part is, I think, the coins. I think it's called coins. It's a really weird word, but I think it's called coins. Those stone thingies on the side. If you're building a Fairytale castle or just any castle, please use those. Small amounts or big amounts, I don't care. Just use them. They elevate the build so much. It's a perfect detail for this kind of build. So I'm really glad that's in the game. I think it came in the game with the fantasy update. So, sorry, not fantasy, the Fairytale update. So I think it's not that long in the game. I'm really glad it is. Otherwise this build was not this beautiful. So I love that little piece. And it's just finding out which pieces to use in this detailing stage. So what I did for the spires, for the roof lining on the spires, is a mythology coin. You know, that coin that you can break up into 3 pieces. That coin, I used that coin to do the roof lining of the spires. Also a basic shape of a circle. I also used that on the little spire. So yeah, it's just finding your different kind of pieces to put in there. I just imagine what I want and then I seek the pieces for it. Most of the time I find the pieces pretty quickly. I know most of the people don't like the UI of the Planet Coaster 2. I really like it. I am pretty comfortable at it now. I find the pieces pretty quickly, so I'm glad with that. And that made the detailing stage a lot easier. But even if it's easier, it still takes the most time of the build, of course. You just focus on the little details and that takes a lot of time away. So enjoy the time lapse. I will see you when I start the surrounding area. And there I will tell you how I made this small castle look very, very big. Finally, the build is finished and now we can get into the surrounding area and place all the nature. And we also get to the scientific part of the build, because you may not believe it, but this build is actually really small. It's 2x2 grids big, so if you compare it to the station of the coaster, for example, it's a really tiny build, but I don't want it to look like a tiny build, so how are we going to do that? Well, it's something called forced perspective. And many theme parks around the world use this technique to make small things look a lot larger than they actually are. There are a lot of ways to get forced perspective, but the most common way and the way I used it was to work with height and depth. At the base of the mountain, which is more a hill than a mountain, I used big trees at ground level to block the base of the mountain. This gives the idea that the mountain is a lot higher than in reality, and that also counts for everything on it. But there are still a few changes to really sell the effect. I scaled everything accordingly, so the trees on top of the mountain are scaled down, and the further down the mountain they go, the bigger they get. This really sells the effect and gives the impression that the castle is absolutely huge. There was only one problem. My idea was that people could visit the castle, so I did one more thing. On the side that the people come close to the building, I made the windows and doors larger than the other side. This also really sells the effect and gives the impression that even from close up, the castle is pretty big. The height helps with that, of course, but yeah, it was fun to experiment with this theory. I can recommend everyone to look into it because it gives a lot more realism to the park and it gives you a lot more control on what the guests actually see. So let's just finish this up and after that I will show you a showcase of the build. Okay guys, this was the time lapse for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more of Fable Park. The series is continuing. Next week there will be another episode. Let me know in the comments if you have any ideas for this park. I'm glad to hear them and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.